I want everybody to see everybody right now. So here we go.
Doctor JC Cooley. Yeah. The J Cooley Show. It's your life. Come on.
Hello, welcome to another edition of the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, I think everybody needs to be locked to the TV, the tube, the LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you're watching or listening to this at, because we really get an opportunity today to learn why we have certain move sets. and a lot of times we just think it's just not feeling that well today or whatever that is. I just found out that it could be because of the food that we eat. Never even thought about that. But and maybe I'm feeling a little awkward today, and we got this great doctor. Is probably going to tell me why I'm feeling this way. It might have been something that I ate or that I didn't eat, but we're going to find out shortly. And I tell you, if you want to be part of this great conversation, by the way, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. If you want to be part of this great conversation, now just go to the comment section on wherever you're watching this at or listening to it, and just type in your questions or answers or whatever that might be, or respond. If you just want to say hello to all of us, especially this great doctor that we got on the show, then you can do it. I always have to introduce my absolutely fantastic, wonderful, sensational co-host, who does all of the heavy lifting to make sure that we're able to bring you a absolutely fantastic show. And that would be my wife, Michelle Cooley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm 10 on a 10-point scale. So, and then I'm just really excited about the show today. You know, we got an amazing guest with an amazing topic, educational, and I'm just really excited about what we got going on ahead of us.
I'm excited as well, and I can't wait to get this show started. So, first of all, Michelle, can you tell our viewers and our listeners what the title of the show and what's the purpose of today's show?
The title of the show today is your food giving you a mood disorder? And the purpose of the show, what?
Hold on, I forgot something.
What?
I forgot something, and Todd is gonna get me. Hey, Todd, let's do it. Let's do it, man.
It's Your Life is sponsored by James J.C. Cooley.
Life is a series of circles and cycles, phases and stages. These are your experiences that teach you the lessons of life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. Welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. James is a motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the James Cooley Foundation. James is here to equip you to strive for greatness and to overcome adversity. It's time to get equipped today for the challenges of tomorrow. Now here's the host of It's Your Life, James Cooley.
Hello. Welcome to It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from my radio audience at the KCB crew. How are you doing? How you doing out there, family? How you doing? Hey, I tell you, we got this absolutely fantastic guest here today that's going to talk to us about why sometimes we have the mood changes or this mood disorder. It could be based on the foods that we eat. And and just like I was telling the other audience that I might be affected by that today because I'm not feeling the best today, but that's okay. Some days we're like that, but I might be finding out real soon that it's something that I ate or something that I didn't eat. And so I want to get this thing started. And Michelle, you have started doing the intro. Can you repeat the title of the show? And can you also tell our listeners and our viewers the purpose of today's show?
Yes, the title of the show is your food giving you a mood disorder? And the purpose of the show is getting to know neurologist, neuroscientist, and author Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary, discuss what is dosha type and the 3 diverse types, discuss the different types of foods to avoid depending on your dosha that could be affecting your mood, and getting to know and discussing what Ayurveda medicine is.
Wow. Okay. Please introduce this great guest so she can explain what some of those things are that you just said.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary, MD, is a neurologist, neuroscientist, and an internationally recognized expert in the ancient practice of Ayurvedic medicine. She earned her medical degree at Loma Linda University of Medicine, completed her internship at University of California, Los Angeles, and neurology residency at University of California, San Diego. She is the author of The Prime and Sound Medicine and is a pioneer in the field of integrative medicine and is a highly sought after speaker, researcher, and advisor for Healthy Directions. She's the former director of Wellspring Health in Scripps Memorial Hospital, where she successfully combined conventional treatments with Ayurvedic practices of detoxification, diet, and lifestyle management to help patients effectively manage chronic neurological disorders such as multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and migraine headaches. Her program was so successful that it's now used for a wide range of health concerns, including weight issues and chronic disease. Through her integrative approach, Chaudhary teaches her patients about the connection between mind, body, and spirit, which impacts every aspect of health, both physically and mentally. Chaudhary also has extensive media experience, including being the regular medical contributor for the Dr. Oz Show, the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Welcomes Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary.
Thanks, guys.
Dr. Chaudhary, how are you doing
Hi,
today?
I'm doing good. Look at this beautiful couple. It's such a joy to be here with you guys, especially
It's such
husband
an
and wife. I
absolute
love
pleasure to have
it.
you because I think you're getting ready to tell me some news that the way that I might be feeling today was because of something I didn't eat or something. But
Now,
I'm ready for it.
but James, that part's easy. We've got to figure out how to make you feel better. We've got to figure out what you did, and then we've got to undo it. So we've got to do both.
So you're absolutely right. And I want to get this started. Dr. Chaudhary, can you tell our viewers and our listeners where you grew up and what did family help shape you into the person that you are today and all the things all the great things that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think family shapes all of us, right? In everything we do. And mine was no different. I was actually born in India and moved here with my family when I was 4 years old. And so it's this East-West combination of my own experiences that very much, changed my perspective on health and medicine. And so from an early age, we were practicing Ayurvedic medicine, which is the ancient healing tradition in India. But we never called it Ayurvedic medicine because it was just the way that we ate. We ate a certain way. We, meditated. We did yoga. If my sister and I got sick, which wasn't very often, my mom oftentimes reached for the turmeric and honey before she would take us to a doctor's office. So these things were just a part of our life. But, when I got to medical school, I thought I knew better. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I've been practicing village medicine, and kind of turned my nose up to it. And of course, that was the first time that I started getting sick. And so ultimately, it was through my own healing journey when I developed migraine headaches as a neurologist that I eventually came back to these practices because, it was the best I ever felt. And I couldn't figure out why I was no longer feeling as healthy as I had most of my life once I gave it up.
Wow. Did you always want to be a doctor, or was it just from what age, if you did?
Really from the earliest memories that I have. And my grandfather was a physician. He was the physician for the village that I grew up in. And he was just so beloved. He had people coming from all over India to come and see him. And I was, of course, like the apple of his eye because I was the first grandchild. And so he used to carry me on his shoulders to his clinic. I can still remember the green paint, in the clinic. And the thing I remember the most was, not just that the pills or the other medications he gave, but I remember how much he loved his patients. And so it's, I think in part because of just how much I loved my grandfather. But I think it was just that exchange of love that I was so drawn to how healing that was, that I don't remember a time where I did not want to be a doctor.
Wow. So what made you decide in the career of being a neurologist and a neuroscientist? You're like, you got two behind you. We'll talk about more later.
Yeah, I've got a love affair with the brain, Michelle. That's really what it is. I love it. And I just love learning more and more about it. When I did when I went to medical school, I loved so many different disciplines. And there was a time where I thought I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. And then I loved psychiatry. Almost everything I did, I found some kind of value in it and really enjoyed the experience. But when I hit neurology, it was really like love at first sight. Because I realized that the brain was something I could study for the rest of my life. The brain, the nervous system, and the mind was something that I could study for the rest of my life, and I would never master it. And I thought that was really exciting, that I could memorize everything about the brain. I could memorize everything about the nervous system, but I could still, even after all that study, never be able to explain some of the mysteries of the mind. So that's what captivated me. And it's really been exactly that. It's been a lifelong quest to understanding the mind. And that is one of the reasons why Ayurvedic medicine has been so rewarding, because it really taught me the connection between the mind and the gut, which is what we're going to talk about.
Exactly. You know, my brother's a pediatrician. He said he knew by the age of 6 that he knew he wanted to be in the medical field, and he also knew he wanted to be a pediatrician. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you just have both.
Sometimes it's just, I look at it as like something has already locked you in and pulled you towards a direction because it has so much of what you want to contribute, you know, on the planet, whether it's to your immediate like patient population or on a more public basis. You know, medicine was that for me. I knew this was my purpose in life.
Well, great. Now, dosha.
All right, go for it, Michelle. Go for it. Wind it up.
I don't know what it is. A lot of people don't know what it is. Tell us, and we got 2 minutes before the break, but can you start? What is a dosha?
Yeah, let's get kind of a high level view. Dosha is a mind body type. And I think one of the reasons why we're always looking for like, you know, a certain diet for a certain type or certain supplements for certain types is there is this ancient knowledge in understanding that we do have mind body types. And there's 3 in Ayurveda. And so the doshas are the way in which you approach everything about your health. So that's kind of like an introductory perspective to doshas. We'll dive in deeper.
Wow.
So that's say that again about dosha one more time, because
dosha is they're the mind body types, and there's 3: vata, pitta, and kapha. And like James, you were saying, what could I have eaten today that might have led to the headache? So that would be dependent on your dosha type, and we can kind of unravel that mystery. But doshas tell you everything about yourself. They tell you how to live, how to eat. They make being you a lot easier.
Wow. I tell you, we're going to take a station break, but when we get back, we're going to pick it up from dosha. And we're going to really get an opportunity to delve deep into that and continue our great conversation with this great doctor. If you want to be part of this conversation, go to the comments and just send your comments in. It's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll see you shortly after the break.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity. Coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley.
Noah Dingley here, producer of the James Cooley.
Listen up! It's Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Yeah! It's the James Cooley Show. It's your life.
Hello. Hey, I'm James Cooley. I am the founder and CEO of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, Options, Opportunities, Choice Program. Our primary mission is to help build a foundation of our youth and young adults and communities. And we encourage everyone to dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. And the way that you do that is, first of all, you got to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you are here for a purpose. You also have to be able to step out your comfort zone and do things that you probably didn't think that you can do.
Noah Dingley here, producer of the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
North County.
And AM 1170 San Diego. The Answer.
It's time to...
Hello. Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. And I tell you that we are getting ready to dive off into a lot of the meat of this topic. And I can't wait. I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna let Michelle handle most of this, but I'm gonna be all ears on this one because we're gonna talk. What was that about dosha?
Dosha.
Yes.
That's
So
it.
I want to pick it up from there, but I tell you, our listeners and viewers, if you want to be part of this conversation, go to the comments and just ask this great doctor any question that you want to. I'll make sure that we put it up and that you get the answer. So, I want to pick it back up with dosha, doc. You was explaining what that means, the three different phases of that. Can you go back into that again, please?
Absolutely. So there's three doshas, and most of us actually have a combination of two, but at different times one will become dominant. So the three doshas are vata, pitta, kapha. And when you figure out which dosha you are, and particularly which dosha is out of balance, you then have the key basically to unlocking your health. So let's go through the three doshas so that you can start getting a sense of which one you might be. So the vata dosha is the first dosha. And vata dosha, they're naturally slender. They're very small boned. They tend to do everything fast. So they think fast, talk fast, forget fast. And vata tends to be very enthusiastic. And I like thinking of cartoon characters that kind of epitomize these doshas. So the road runner, if, am I aging myself by mentioning the road runner? But the road runner is a great archetype of the vata dosha. So for vata individuals, when they're in balance, they are energetic, as I mentioned, very creative and enthusiastic. But when they get out of balance, they can have a tendency towards insomnia, constipation, other bowel irregularities. And if they eat the wrong diet, it can actually predispose them to anxiety. So what would be the wrong diet for a vata dosha? It would be eating a lot of cold foods, cold vegetables, raw diet. This is disastrous for a vata dosha. And so people who are constantly drinking that, cold drink or on a raw vegan diet and have a vata dosha predominance, they're going to notice that over time they're feeling worse and worse, and they're actually getting more and more anxious.
Wow. So you mentioned the vata
Yeah.
type dosha. People are, you said, slender, small bone, so to speak.
Mhm.
Is that all the time? Do they always have to fit that body
So
type?
that's a good question. It means that that's how they're born. Now, of course, if a vata individual is eating the wrong diet and not digesting food, they'll eventually gain weight. But then what happens is they develop a kapha imbalance. And so let me talk a little bit more about the other doshas, and then it'll make a little more sense what I mean by balance. Okay. So our second dosha is the pitta dosha, and the pitta dosha is the fiery dosha. And so they tend to be medium build, good muscle tone, very, very focused, high achievers. And when they're in balance, like I said, they tend to be very bright individuals. They are very task oriented and organized. But when they get out of balance, they can develop things like rashes, diarrhea, and a lot of the itises, a lot of the inflammatory conditions because of all that excess heat. So when pitta individuals eat heated foods like chili, garlic, drinking fermented drinks like kombucha, or heating drinks like alcohol, they can develop those imbalances, but they can also develop anger and irritability. Now, for James, usually when you develop a headache, there's some kind of abnormality with the pitta dosha. So when we look at individuals who are like regularly having headaches, for example, we'll oftentimes look at, okay, are you eating a lot of spicy foods in particular? And so, James, do you mind if I put you just a little bit on the spot? Can you think of anything maybe in the last 24 hours that maybe was like a little bit heating, or even being out in the sun for prolonged periods, or being out in the sun during the hottest time of day? That can also trigger a pitta imbalance.
Okay, so
Michelle's like, well, I know what's going on.
so this morning, when I normally I get up, well, in Cali, just like you, and I do my hike probably about 7 o'clock. I went on an extended hike this morning, and it took me about 3 hours. And by the time I was about a mile away from the house, I was almost crawling. that heat was there, and I wasn't used to getting that heat like that.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened today, I believe.
And so imagine, just like that heat was coming from your environment, imagine that same kind of heat coming from your foods, and it would trigger the same kind of biochemical reaction. And so that can also lead to things like, headaches. So for Pitta individuals, we recommend cooling food. So green leafy vegetables, coconut water is excellent. So James, like for today, I would recommend, if you can get access to some coconut water, that helps to cool down Pitta. There's certain foods like aloe vera or aloe vera juice that also help to cool down Pitta. Melons are naturally cooling. But for Pitta individuals, we want to keep them away from all the heating foods. And that includes even things like citrus, which people don't usually think of as heating, but they're acidic foods. And then finally, we have the Kapha dosha. And so the Kapha dosha is the largest build, and they tend to be slower in their speech, slower in their movements, and they're just very, very steady, very loyal individuals. And Kapha, when it stays in balance, it has unbelievable endurance. They're very compassionate people. They have beautiful singing voices. They have a tremendous amount of sturdiness, both physically and in their personality. But when they get out of balance, they can tend to gaining weight. They can tend to the development of growths, conditions like diabetes. And if they're eating the wrong diet, then they have a tendency towards depression. So the ideal diet for a Kapha individual, which is always horrifying for Kapha people to hear because they're such foodies, but the ideal diet is a vegan diet. So not a lot of meat. It doesn't mean you have to be vegan all the time, but just having more of a vegan diet. So not a lot of meat, not a lot of dairy, and also minimizing the sugar for Kapha individuals. And when they eat like that, they're ridiculously healthy. But if they're eating a lot of ice cream, a heavy diet in meat, a lot of cheese, and snacking a lot of sugars, they develop a Kapha imbalance, and then that can result in depression.
Wow. So besides the description you've given us, we're going to 3 different dosha types. Is there like a quiz that we can find out exactly what dosha type we are?
Absolutely. And, ideally, the way that we used to do this is you would come and see an Ayurvedic practitioner and we would make the diagnosis. But since not everybody has access to an Ayurvedic practitioner, you can at least use the quiz to start getting to know what you lean towards. So we have a dosha quiz on our website, drkchaudhary.com. You can go through the quiz and it'll tell you your predominant type. Now, James, can I pick on you again, just because I had made that promise that we were going to do something to try to help out your symptoms?
Absolutely.
Can I pick on you? All right. So James is a combination of both the Kapha dosha and the Pitta dosha. And like I said, most people are a combination. Now, that's my favorite combination just because it's so sturdy, but it's also so organized. And they tend to be really good in like businesses and other projects just because they have that stability with that organization. And so depending on the time of year, because different times of year, different doshas will go up. So in the summertime, because it's so hot, that's when Pitta tends to get more out of balance. So when you go into the summertime and you go into that summer heat, you've got to do things to start cooling yourself down for the summer. But then when you get into the springtime, late winter, spring, that's Kapha season. That's when you've got to be really cautious about eating any of those heavy foods. So that's how you would approach this knowledge of the doshas. You would look at, where are you starting from? And then what are the different things that are impacting it? And how can you optimize your health under all conditions? And that's what I love about, the knowledge of the doshas is it's so empowering. And you know what? There's so many times where we make judgments about ourselves, like, oh, I'm just a flighty person, or, oh, I've got anger management issues, or, oh, I just get down in the dumps. I'm just somebody who struggles with depression because I just have low energy. But all of those things are just reflections of a dosha out of balance. And so a lot of the ways in which we judge ourselves are really just a reflection of an imbalance. And when you correct the imbalance, you're back to your prime self. You're back to your best self. And there's no judgment involved. It's just the science of living.
Wow. I think she just diagnosed me on a lot of different. I might be a combination of all three of those.
I'm gonna take that quiz on the site because I'm seeing myself as the first one, the Vata type. You know, a little smaller build, talk fast. I always say that's a New Yorker in me, but maybe it's the
Vata New Yorker in you. And you know what? I was just thinking about this too. What a great combination, because between the two of you, you have all three doshas. And actually, you know, it is very harmonious when Vata individuals marry somebody that have Kapha in them, because they're very grounding. And so they help to kind of ground, you know, some of Vata's tendency to like, oh, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. And then like the Kapha individual kind of helps to ground that. But then the Vata individual helps keep the Kapha individual, you know, moving forward. So it's just about understanding who you are, understanding like who your family members are. And that just brings a lot of tolerance. And I think a lot of appreciation. And James, to your point about, you know, hey, I think I have all three. Your constitution is predominantly one, but you can still have an imbalance in the other one. And that oftentimes comes because of lifestyle choices or diet, you know, or like stress that can bring on a dosha imbalance that is not native to you.
Wow. You know, my producer's telling me that I had to take a station break. I don't want to. Like, Todd, don't beat me.
We won't take it personally. Doc, we understand.
Hey, we're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back. We're just going to pick it up because this is an extremely interesting conversation. If you want to be part of the conversation, I'm feeling better already. Go to your comment section and put your comments and ask the question. It's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity. Coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley.
There is much truth.
Third, commitment. We all are committed to the In and Out project. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. I came all the way in from California just to make sure that I'm here. I'm committed. You know, so commitment is when you say you're going to do something, when you go to join a team or you're going to volunteer, you're going to do this, if you say you're going to do it, you got to commit to it. And we got to get our youth, we got to get our society, we got to get our community, we got to get our leaders, we got to get everybody to commit to making our communities better and giving others opportunities.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold. It's time to dream big, think big, and be big. It's time for more It's Your Life. Now, here's your host, James
Hello, welcome back to It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and like I was saying, that we was off into that conversation. I almost missed the break, but I can't miss the break because we got to pay the bills. and this is so intriguing. And Doc, I'm gonna be honest with you, I do feel better already. I mean, hey Michelle, I got the show. No. Hey, just understanding the way that you are explaining this, it kind of puts everything in context, I believe.
Yes. And
And
we have a saying in Ayurveda, James. I'm so sorry, James, for cutting you off.
that's okay.
You just inspired a thought in me of exactly what you were saying. We have a saying in Ayurveda that, knowledge or wisdom is purifying, meaning it even purifies the body. Like just having self-understanding, knowing yourself and knowing why something happens, that in and of itself balances the body and mind. So it's exactly to what you were saying.
Wow. Might not be able to ask this question right because I can't even pronounce the word, but I'm gonna try. You mentioned you mentioned different type of medicines or different type things, and you got something in your bio called are you
Ayurvedic
a
medicine.
yeah.
Ayurvedic medicine, yes.
Mhm.
And Ayurveda actually just translates into the science of life. And it's really simple. People sometimes go, oh, Ayurvedic medicine, that must be something really foreign or different. And I said, well, a lot of the health trends that you see today actually come from Ayurvedic medicine, which is thousands and thousands of years old. And there was a reason why it lasted so long. And the foundations of Ayurvedic medicine are really simple. One, food is medicine, and that's why food is so important and why digestion is so important. And the entire gut brain connection is critical to health. And second, that health as well as disease is predominantly a result of our habits. And even in modern medicine, we know that. 95% of diseases that are being treated are really lifestyle related. They're not something that you're destined for. There's something that get expressed after repetitive habits in a particular direction. We might have a genetic predisposition, but that does not mean that we have to develop it. And the whole modern dialogue around the microbiome, well, that's 1,000-year-old conversation stemming from Ayurveda, how gut health really is the basis for all health. So a lot of these, kind of modern trends and scientifically proven new discoveries in medicine, we can trace back to Ayurveda. And it's a very simple system. It's all about connection, staying connected to yourself, staying connected to each other, and staying connected to nature.
Dr. Chaudhary, conventional practices along with Ayurvedic medicine practices, how does it help those people going through or suffering from chronic neurological disorders? You got Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, migraine headaches. Can you kind of go into that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's basically what I built my entire career doing. And, the beauty of it for me, Michelle, is in neurology in particular, we see a lot of conditions that, like, I was trained and I had an excellent training, but I was trained that these aren't conditions that you can really reverse. They're conditions that you can maybe modify a little bit, but mainly it's symptom relief. And the beauty in Ayurvedic medicine was that I found, because of this connection through, the gut and the brain and the influence, but also just the way in which habits can change neurochemistry, I found ways that you could actually modulate disease so that somebody who came in with MS, they didn't have to be in a wheelchair. It wasn't like for certain that, oh, this has to get worse. And, conditions like migraine headaches, I oftentimes didn't have to use any medications at all. We would just simply, give people the recommendations for how to balance. In migraine headaches, it's usually a combination of pitta and vata, just how to balance it through food, through lifestyle, and also give seasonal recommendations so that we would prevent the onset, of these headaches during particular seasons. So it went from, writing a prescription and handing it out for the treatment and everything to sitting down with my patients, understanding, first of all, what was their journey? How did they get there in the first place? Because every disease has a journey. And then coming up with a plan for how to get out. And we did it together. And it didn't have to happen all overnight. It wasn't like, okay, you're going to change everything you're doing in 3 months. We did it small steps, but when you take a step that leads to success, you're more likely to take the next step. Small steps of success lead to really big gains.
Well, Dr. Chaudhary, when you talk about Ayurvedic medicine, it's known for spices and herbs. Can you talk about those specific spices and herbs and how they can help a person with a specific dosha type regarding, their
Absolutely.
moods?
Absolutely. So in Ayurveda, your kitchen really becomes your pharmacy, and this is the best part because my kitchen is it is the most stocked room in my house, and it's because I've got kind of like a different cure for anything that could possibly come up. But it's all it's all natural, and I'm in control over it. And so there's certain spices like turmeric powder, which you've probably heard of, and those are balancing for all of the doshas. And so these are the kinds of things that I say, look, just find a way to add this into your cooking one way or another, because it has so many benefits. It's such a strong anti-inflammatory. But then even according to dosha, and Michelle, I do this according to the season, depending on which dosha is predominant, my fridge will look differently because I'm cooking and I'm eating for balancing that particular season. So for Vata, for example, so this would be great for you, Michelle, adding ginger, into your food. Ginger is so good for Vata, so grounding, so helpful for Vata digestion. For Pitta dosha, it's both an herb and a food. So I use it in my cooking, but you can also get it as an herb, and it's called amla powder. And so during the summertime, we add that into all of our cooking because it helps to cool you down, and just half a teaspoon into your meals is enough. And it has a naturally sour taste to it, even though it balances pitta, it has a little bit of a sour taste to it. And so you could put that in your food in place of lemon. And then for kapha, if there's not an associated pitta imbalance, spices and foods that are heating. So adding things like black pepper, onions, garlic, that's all fantastic for balancing kapha. So, instead of looking at like, oh, okay, I've got to go out and get this prescription, or I've got to go out and get this supplement, you can go directly to your kitchen and find ways to balance your dosha. And it's fun. It's fun being able to have that kind of control.
I think that is great, having that type of control, natural herbs and spices. Well, we talked about all the three dosha types. So let's talk about sweets in general. Sweets.
Michelle wants to know about sugar.
It could be sugar. It can even be salt. I'm not a salt person. I'm more of a sweets person. Some people just love adding the extra salt. That just turns me off. And also sweets and salt, and also eating right before you go to bed. You're up there, you're eating sweets and salty stuff, and it's time to go to bed. How does that affect the different types of dosha types and their moods?
So this is great. So you're going to be surprised by what I'm going to say, because some people should be eating sweets.
Okay.
And so let's go over that. So sweet tastes are balancing to some of the doshas. It's actually balancing to both Vata and Pitta. But it has to do with what type of sweet are you using. I'm not talking about like the processed white bleached sugar. I'm talking about the kind of sweets that would come from eating fruits or from healthy sugars like jaggery. Michelle, jaggery would be great for you. It's really, really good for Vata. It's a type of minimally processed sugar. Really, it's just sugarcane juice that's dried up. Mm-hmm. And according to your dosha, if you eat it at specific times, it'll be balancing. So for Vata, during certain times of the day, the doshas will become predominant. So Vata hours from 2 to 6, both in the morning and in the afternoon. So if you scheduled having a little sweet, a healthy sweet, like maybe a soaked date, or let's say, Michelle, you're really thin, so, sweets are perfectly fine for you. But let's say you have a Vata imbalance, but you're trying to avoid sugar. Eating something that has a sweet taste, like a cardamom pod, a green cardamom pod, during the Vata hour will actually help to balance Vata, and it'll lower your overall sweet cravings for unhealthy sugars. So for you, Michelle, I would schedule every day, maybe like 1 or 2 soaked dates between 2 to 6. And what you'll notice is that you just won't have as much of a lull during that time. You'll stay more even. It'll give you energy. Now for Kapha dosha, right? And we talked about how sugar wasn't healthy for Kapha dosha. They need to minimize all sugars, but there is one sugar that is really good for Kapha dosha, and that is honey. So I mentioned before that I love the different cartoon characters that represent the doshas because it's just good archetypes. So there's a very famous kapha archetype that we grew up with, Winnie the Pooh. And of course, what does Winnie the Pooh love? He loves honey. And honey is very balancing for kapha. It's one of the sugars, because it's heating, that actually helps to reduce, the kapha dosha. So I would say choose healthier sugars. And then depending on your dosha, schedule when to have it. Like for kapha, for example, have the honey during, the kapha time, simply because it helps to reduce kapha. And those are usually from about 6 to 10 in the morning and then 6 to 10 in the evening. And for pitta hour is from 10 a.m. to about 2 p.m. and then 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So that, for a pitta person, have a little dessert after lunch, because that will help to cool down the pitta. But again, a healthy dessert.
Wow. This is extraordinary. This is great. We're gonna take another station break. But when we come back from the station break, we're gonna jump right back in here. And I'm going to ask my great producer what are his thoughts on the conversation that we're talking about. So
awesome. And Michelle, I'm going to get back to your question too about eating at night. I haven't forgotten.
Okay, great, doctor.
So we're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back and we're going to pick it up, and I'm going to see what my main man Todd, what are his thoughts is as it relates to this great topic. It's Your Life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity. Coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley. The J.C. Cooley Foundation is a nonprofit organization that was started in October of 2014. The J.C. Cooley Foundation continues to strive to expand its programs and offerings to the youth, young adults, and citizens of our great communities nationwide and overseas. We hope that you'll be able to take part in one or more of the many exciting events that we're offering this year and experience firsthand the pride we take in supporting our cause. It's our mission to equip the youth of today for the challenges of tomorrow, and we rely heavily on the generosity of individuals and business owners for support. Without the assistance of community-minded individuals just like you, we wouldn't be able to serve our youth each year. We ask that you make a commitment to support our annual appeal by making a cash donation. This year's goal is $50,000. Your generosity will assist us in making a difference in the lives of the youth in our community. You can give online at CooleyFoundation.org. Remember that every donation makes a difference regardless of size. The J.C. Cooley Foundation thanks you in advance for your contribution.
Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Yeah. The James Cooley Show. It's your life. Come on.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and I tell you, learning so much. I tell you, I'm be honest with you. We gotta have Michelle. You got to reach back out to our peeps. We're gonna have to do this again and continue to learn. And I'm just putting that out now. Show ain't over yet. We still got a whole segment. But this is so interesting, and this is I think that we all need to understand the things that you're talking about and how they are so important to the way that we live our lives, the way that we treat others, the way that we feel, etc. I think all those things are important. So I gotta ask my great producer, who's sitting back, I know, listening to every word, what is his thoughts on what he had heard so far. Todd, my great producer, can you tell our viewers and our listeners what are your thoughts?
Well, this is very interesting show so far, and learned a lot. I think some of the things we kind of know, but some of us put our health on the back burner. But it's so important that we, are conscious of what we're doing. But it makes sense with the food and the body types. It's kind of like if you have, you have different cars out there, and different cars require different fuel. If you put the wrong fuel, if you put motorbike fuel into a regular car, it's not going to run well.
Yes,
so you
I love that.
want the the best fuel for your body or your different body type. And I think after she described the Kapha body type as being kind of like Winnie the Pooh, then I don't know which body I was type at first, but as soon as she said Winnie the Pooh, I go, okay, I'm Kapha for sure.
That's great.
But this is such an interesting conversation, and I believe that anyone that's listening to that, they're trying to figure out where they fit in at. Now, you kind of got me with the Winnie the Pooh as well, because I watched Winnie the Pooh. I watched Tigger.
Come on, who hasn't?
I'm talking about the wonderful thing about, well, you already know. I ain't gonna go off into that.
It is like simple things, like she said. For someone with Kapha body type to do honey instead of sugar.
And the beauty of it too, Todd, is even though like Kapha, for example, does so well on a vegan diet, it doesn't mean like you have to go vegan overnight. Like you can do meatless Mondays, like you can make these small changes and then see, okay, so at what point am I feeling good? And let that be your set point. It's not like you've got to throw everything out. But it's just making like the little changes, like adding in, honey as your main sweetener.
And the thing is that when you're eating, when you got it all dialed in, it is amazing how much better you feel.
Yes.
When I'm eating healthy,
Absolutely.
I'm eating mostly vegetarian type or mostly vegetable, in my diet of that day, I feel so much better than if I was to have fast food or sugar. You really can almost within your diet for that day, you instantly see an effect.
It's exactly right. It's instantaneous. And Todd, you brought up honey again. And I should give one little caveat to honey. You never heat up honey. So honey actually releases a toxin when you heat it up. So, we're promoting honey so much, but always, like if you're going to add it into a liquid, wait till the liquid is comfortable to touch before you add it in. Now, this is something that's been described in Ayurveda, but we've also found that, in modern science, that when you heat up honey, it actually releases a toxin into the body.
Wow.
I wonder, so many people put their honey in their tea.
I know, or bake with honey, so don't bake with it and don't add it into anything hot until it's comfortable to touch. Then it's perfectly fine.
I can't bake with honey.
We broke James. We broke James. Call in.
We don't really use honey that much. We do have it, but that's interesting. Would you say not to bake with honey?
Not to bake with it, not to heat it up. That's the only thing.
But
coconut palm sugar is also. I'm sorry, James. I'm actually feeling bad looking at your reaction.
What I mean, Doc, is honey. I like to make this honey salmon, and you spread it all on.
Oh no, I hear you. But is there a way to? I know, I hear you. I love those tastes too. But it's just once it heats up to a certain point, you're doing more harm than you are good. And so this body does so much for us, and we rely on this mind for everything. And that's why I always look at it like, okay, so you're doing so much for me. What can I do back for you?
That's a great way of looking at that. And all of this information is, like I said, Doc, is so valuable because probably 95% of us that's listening and watching the show did not know about any of these things, especially the doshas. I was trying to figure out where you were gonna go with that when I'm looking at all this on doing the research.
And I'll tell you, the second and as soon as you just start making little changes, It's just like what Todd says. It's in that day you start to feel better. And I wanted to get back to Michelle's question, just because this is one of the things that you can do to really, really feel good. And Michelle, you nailed it. And it's about eating late. So we talked about different times of the day having different doshas. And so kapha dosha naturally has kind of sluggish, digestion. And kapha hour is the evening hours. And it's when your body's trying to prepare, for going to bed. So starting around 6 p.m., you start going into kapha hour and it lasts till 10 p.m. And so kapha that has sluggish digestion, our digestion during the evening hours of kapha gets sluggish. So it gets really heavy and we get kind of really heavy, and that's to prepare for sleep. So when you eat past 6 p.m., you're not digesting the food. And they've even done studies where if you eat the same number of calories, but you eat more at lunch, which is pitta hour, which is when your digestion is the strongest, your heat is the highest, you'll lose weight just from shifting your calories from the evening to the middle of the day. And, that is a recommendation across the board. And I was laughing when I first heard about intermittent fasting, because it became like this huge trend, like, oh, it's the secret to longevity. I'm like, well, in Ayurveda, we never called it intermittent fasting. We called it eating. You just don't eat once the sun sets. That was just the way that things were. And that's a recommendation across the board. And for anyone who's eating late, just try it for 1 week where you do not eat after the sun sets, and you'll be amazed how light you feel in the morning.
And also how less thirsty you are. I realize when I eat late at night, the next morning, I'm just really thirsty. I'm like, why am I eating? It's because, whether it's sugar or whatever ingredients in it, it makes you more thirsty. But I'm going to ask you one quick question before James gets to you. What about the 3 different dosha types? What about women who are going through menopause?
Oh man, I'm so glad you brought this up. So women should not go through menopause until they know their dosha, because it changes everything. Like, you should just be like, body, stop. I'm going to go learn about my dosha, then we'll do this. Because menopause and perimenopause, which, Michelle, that starts in our late 30s. We start going into perimenopause and the hormonal changes in our late 30s. And that is a time where both vata and pitta go nuts. I mean, there's just all of these fluctuations because of the hormonal changes. And if you know that that's coming, and like, thank God I knew that that was coming, you can do things ahead of time that help to balance those dosha so that you're not experiencing all the ups and downs of menopause. It doesn't mean that, there's absolutely no symptoms, because modern life in and of itself just isn't very balanced, and especially for women. And so, there may still be some symptoms, but I'm just amazed at how minimal you can make them when you understand your dosha, especially when you take the appropriate herbs. And there's 3 in particular I love giving to women as they go through menopause. And it's a combination of Brahmi, ashwagandha, and Shankapushpi. I love that name, Shankapushpi. But that combination of herbs, it just brings sanity back, because it just evens out the impact that the fluctuating hormones are having. And it minimizes a lot of just like some of the crazy symptoms that you don't even think about, like losing your hair, losing elasticity in your skin, which all of this stuff seems to happen like overnight, as you're starting to go through these hormonal transitions. And Michelle, here's a big payoff too. When you can balance vata and pitta during perimenopause and menopause, you don't tend to have that sudden accumulation of kapha that leads to the weight gain that results for so many women as they're going into menopause or after menopause. And women on average gain more than 10 pounds, on average more than that, just during this time. And it's the kapha that comes in because these other 2 doshas get so out of balance. It's trying to balance the body out. And so working on, keeping your digestion balanced according to your dosha, and seeing, how vata is playing and how pitta is playing during menopause, eating appropriately, and then taking the appropriate herbs. It's night and day. I mean, it makes all of the difference in the world. And what's great, Michelle, is a lot of the herbs that help women during menopause also help teenagers during puberty. So I'm in the perimenopausal, period, and my son is going through puberty, and we're on the exact same herbs. And I'll tell you, I don't think there's been a perimenopausal mom that has had as good of a relationship with her teenage son as he and I have. And we both complain about our hormones.
Well, we're down to the last 30 seconds of the show. And I'm telling you, we got to do this again. Because there's so many things that are. But real quickly, if so our audience want to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
So everything I'm talking about, you can find it on my website, Dr. K. Chaudhary, but also just going to my social media, which I think is also just Dr. K. Chaudhary, Dr. Kulreet Chaudhary. But I'm pretty good at answering questions on social media.
Okay, so I tell you, the radio audience is getting ready to pull off. Thank you so much, the radio hosts. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd, for all of the great things you're doing, my friend. Thank you for producing a great show like you always. And I tell you, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place on KCBQ. It's Your Life. I'm James Cooley, and we'll talk to you later. Ciao. But we're going to continue this conversation right here. We don't have to end on all the rest of the channels and all the rest of social media. So a couple of takeaways that I want to add to this. What are a couple of takeaways that our viewers and our listeners should take from this great discussion, this great conversation that we're having today?
One is health isn't as complicated as it feels when you know your body type. Like when you know what kind of, as Todd said, when you know the car you're driving, you know how to take care of it, right? And so your body type's the same way. It's like giving you a manual. And then all of a sudden, James, instead of doing like the 100 things that everybody's doing, you're doing just the 10 things that are really, really important for your dosha. So that's key point number one. People are always like, gosh, how do you stay so healthy? I'm like, because I only do the things that I need to. I'm not doing everything. I only do the things that I need to. And I make sure to keep my dosha in balance to the best of my ability. The second big takeaway is big change happens with small steps. And so oftentimes when people hear this and go, oh my God, I'm doing everything wrong for my dosha. I'm pitta and I eat chilies every single day. I say, all right, so just reduce them by 25%. You don't have to change overnight. There's no relationship that became successful overnight. And that includes a relationship with your body and your mind. So, make the changes by 25%. And then when you feel ready, make the next set of change. So don't take off such big bites. Like just take little bites and enjoy it.
Yeah. So what are some of the projects that you're working on right now? I know you're probably doing a million things.
Some of the projects that I'm working. Hey, Michelle. One of the main projects I'm doing right now is with Healthy Directions, where we're launching this campaign to educate America about Ayurveda and creating an East meets West approach to balancing your dosha. That is one of my main focuses. But I also have an ongoing project in India where I'm, helping to resurrect some of the ancient records of this tradition and the Siddha tradition. And so that'll be a lifelong commitment. And I've got to mention this project, James. I'm involved with an organization called Unity for Orphans, where we're helping to change the lives of children in Latin America who have been abandoned by their families. And one of the projects that I'm working on with them is setting up a program for trauma healing that is based on these principles of Ayurveda. And that's also a long-term family legacy project that we do with our son.
Wow. So I got to ask you this because you are so well put. Are you working on any books? Or you got any books?
I've written 2 books. The first one was The Prime. And that was actually my program for neurorehabilitation. And the end result of my neurorehabilitation program was weight loss. So it turned into a weight loss program because it detoxified your body and brain. And so that was the first book I wrote. And then the second book that I wrote was on sound medicine. And it's a book that explains how sound was traditionally used in healing and how sound is actually used even in modern medicine, and the science, both ancient and modern, for future uses of sound.
Wow. We're going to have to reach back out and get you. I
I
want to
would
put you.
love it.
I want to get you on our television show.
Yeah, let's meet up in La Jolla. You can take me out to lunch afterwards.
Well, I don't have a problem in doing that.
Bring Michelle. She seems like a blast.
She is absolutely wonderful. But you have prompted me, so we want to put this on TV as well.
All right.
And I just have to work it out in the schedule because we fill up pretty fast.
Sure.
And this has been so.
Oh, it's been fun, James. It's been really fun. You
plus,
guys are wonderful.
I feel better already.
Listen, my goal was, I'm like, we are going to get him feeling better. Like, yes, we're going to do the interview, but we have got to get James feeling better. So that was one of my intentions, was making sure you leave with something that was going to make you feel better. So I'm glad to hear
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the James Cooley Show. It's your life. This is wonderful. This is fascinating, and I promise you, when Michelle reach out to your peeps, we're gonna do this again if you're willing to do this again.
You got it, but I'm telling you, I want to hang out with you and Michelle. We're gonna do lunch in La Jolla.
we can do that. We can do that.
You got it.
We can do the show on radio and TV, all that at the same time, and I do that on Tuesdays. So I combine.
There's something on Tuesday.
On Tuesdays at 12 o'clock. This is the radio show, but on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock, we do all of it. All of them at the same time. And it's fascinating. So we'll work it, and I look forward to this.
Sounds good. Take care, James.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will send you the audio, and I will send you the video, not video, but the show that we're doing right now. And then the radio station will send the produced show out probably later on tonight. So you're gonna get 3.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good.
They really hooked us up this time. Not that they don't always do, but I really enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it too. You both take care.
Thanks so much.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
All right.